So, as you can see, I masked out the birds, the two little downy woodpeckers, and it was so funny because I framed this painting that I had finished of it for my open studio, and I had it hanging in my living room, and then I have a window where I have a ton of bird feeders and stuff, and somebody was just looking at this picture, says, "Oh, what kind of bird is it?" And there was one of those, a downy woodpecker, right outside, says, "That kind." It was so funny. It was like, you know, like just for you. Just for me, yes. So yeah, so little masking fluid on the top of these branches, just a little bit. And then on the birds where you can see the white markings, and you know, just you look in a bird book or look at the photos that I gave you. So you can see where, I mean, again, remember, this is not for the Audubon Society, okay? This is just an artistic impression. So they don't have to be accurate. Mask out the eyes too, even though they're basically dark. But we like, in anything alive, we always want to make sure we get that little white sparkle. Now, of course, if you lose your white sparkle, there's always, you know, can either, you know, put it with a little gel pen, white gel pen, or a little white paint, or you can also use an X-Acto knife at the very end and just kind of flick out a little white spot. So, you know, there's many ways of going about it. We're going to paint the background first, just, you know, the bit of sky we can see behind, and we're going to use Cobalt blue, big shocker. And then probably a little bit of burnt sienna to gray down with. It's gonna go simple here, you know, because it's just the background and the detail's gonna be on the birds. So this is my kind of go-to for kind of a wintry sky. I use Cobalt a lot for my skies. I would say it's my most go-to sky color. I just really like it. I think it works so well. And once in a while, I like to, you know, it depends on what kind of, you know, day it is. Sometimes I'll put a little bit of peacock blue in maybe, or I'll put a little bit of pink in if I want to give it a little bit of a warmer glow. It all depends. And right now I'm going to put a little tiny, and I mean tiny bit of burnt sienna in. Can you see right away how it goes gray? Because, you know, the burnt sienna is basically just a dirty orange, and orange and blue are complementary colors. So, and you just want to do a little tiny bit of the burnt sienna, because otherwise, before you know it, it's going to be kind of a smoggy looking sky. See, that's kind of a good color. I think it's grayed down, but you know, I don't want it to look like dirty. So, and I think even though it's a fairly big area, you know, it's going to be enough. I think it's going to be enough. And then I'm just going to take my big old brush, and now I don't have to be too careful about the bird or the branches or anything. I'm just going to go down one side of the tree, and I can stop here where that is, because that's easy. But you know, you don't have to be super careful here. That's the beauty of masking. And you know, wherever I haven't masked a bird, they're basically black and white, and then there's a little bit of red on the head. So, and since we're doing a very light color and it's cobalt blue, which lifts very easily, I'm not going to worry about it. And the same with the skinnier branches, because they're often more dark looking than white. And we're not going to paint them white anyway. These are birch trees or aspen trees. Your decision. So here's that. So you can see that's super easy. Just, oops, no, I painted over that branch. Doesn't matter. There. Just want to make sure there's enough water that it'll flow. And you know, I can always take a little tissue and dab out if if it's too much paint in the bird. But it's going to be black where I didn't mask out, so what am I worried about? Except maybe I'm going to make them both have a little bit of red on them. All right, and I'm going to stick with my big old brush and get the color on. And here I go around the bird, but it's going to seep into the bird a little bit, but it doesn't matter. And then a little bit down here. There's that. And flip it over. And get color on here. And again, I can paint over that little branch, doesn't matter. So this is, there's nothing to it. Should probably, I might have been a little stingy after all, but that's okay. And then a little bit down here. And that's that. That was easy. And I'm just gonna wipe up my table a little bit, and then I'm gonna throw some salt at it. But see, I don't want it too dark, because, you know, the bird is gonna be mainly black up against it, so, you know, that's gonna give us a really nice contrast. Maybe I'll have a little bit more over here. And then I'm gonna give the tree probably a little bit more of a warmer glow, than, so not make it so cool, since, you know, this is a cool color, blue. Let's get some salt. I think I can throw a little in. And then that's gonna make it look a little snowy, and that's always nice. A little bit down here. And here. And I'm just gonna, I'm using the fine salt here. I have both fine and a little bit coarser, and there we have it. I think it's good enough. There. Oops. So then that one has to dry. And I can see, just fix this a little bit. Yeah. There's that. We're going to make a color up for the tree. And just see a little line there. It's going to be kind of a grayish color. And I want to give it I think I want to give it just a little hint towards the warmer. I'm going to use Cobalt blue, I do believe. Let's get a little bit of Cobalt blue. That's going to be my base color. Cobalt blue. And get enough. And I have some Cobalt blue there if I mess up, which could certainly happen. And then I'm going to put a little bit of the red in. So that tones it a little bit towards the lavender. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to put a little bit, I'll put some more out here of the burnt sienna in.
A little bit, or?
A little bit, because the burnt sienna is so strong that it see how it really already knocked it quite a bit over towards the brownish
gray. Yeah.
Brownish, a little bit warmer, maybe a little bit more blue in, just like this. But I want it warmer, so I'm, you know, I don't want it, you know, because I have a blue here. I don't want the tree to also be mainly blue, so I do have to, you know, have a little bit like that. I think this is good. Then let's go to our big old brush and put water on the whole tree. And clean water. Can you see? Mm-hmm. Take this one away. And some water on, and I am gonna, doesn't really matter, I don't know why I do that. Just paint over the birds, just do like me, just be sloppy. Because I keep wanting to paint around. Why am I painting around? I masked them and they're gonna be black. I mean, really, it's a waste of time. So, and we want to finish this one, not today, we won't finish this one today, but I want to finish so that we can take the masking off. And then we'll finish the tree. And it's totally fine that I'm painting over there, and I can paint just a little bit of water out on those little things.
We can't take the masking off until we finish the birds, though.
We have a whole, this side, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, that's true. We can take this masking off.
Yeah.
That we can take off.
That's going.
And then maybe we have time. I don't know if we have time to put the black on the birds. I don't know.
Is it just
It
all
might be.
black?
It's pretty much because we masked out all the whites. It's not hard. It's not hard. These are surprisingly easy when you, I mean, kind of look at it and you think it's a little complicated, but it's really not. All right, good enough. I'm gonna have my light source, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Where do you think? Left corner.
So
My sun always shines from the left.
She leans left.
I lean left. But it just works so well. It'll catch this and it'll catch that red.
Right.
I mean, it would on the other side too, but I still can do it like that. And it's gonna look a little dark, but that's fine. And out here, and
So
we
the
know,
gray is more purplish gray than just a.
yeah, and it's whatever you like.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a color that I think I
like
want
that.
to do that. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go in and do a couple of places where I might even give it a little warmer glow from a little bit of the burnt sienna. Just because, you know, I want to have a little contrast to all that gray blue around it.
That is a beautiful color.
And then here, that can be a little darker here, and I'm doing it down here, and it goes out on the edge. And then the same here. That the big branches, they have this kind of a color also. The smaller skinny ones, they're going to be dark because they really are. I have both aspen trees and birch trees out in my yard, so I check to see. And that is kind of how they are. And see, I put a little bit of that in. I think that's kind of nice. And you know, again, it's my painting. I can do what I want, right? So for artistic reasons, I really feel I need a little bit, and I really like it.
Yeah, yeah, there. Oh, yeah.
So, and then it's darker on this side, and then it gets lighter. And down here, it's already drying on me. And I'm kind of painting in the direction of the tree, kind of across. There's a little something. And if I have some little boo-boos, it also has all these nice dark markings, as we know. So, I like it the way it's just kind of flowing together. If I get a little dry brushing like there, that's even good. I want to have a little something around here. And again, I like to put a little bit of, it was maybe a little bit more than I wanted, but I like a little bit of that warmth. And especially on this side of the tree, because, you know, it's closer to the light source. I won't see the sun because with the sky we painted, there's no sunshine. It's kind of like the day we had today. Yeah. Kind of gray. But we don't get too many gray days, so we can't complain compared to most other places.
Oh, that is so good.
I like it.
Oh, man.
So I'm getting bolder by the minute, as you can see. And also, it's nice to have something, you know, you got to think about it too. I'm going to have white snow there. Well, if I have a white tree, it's not going to stand out very much. So we need a little, and then that little birdie here, he can. I really like it. I like it. It's already looking birch-like, isn't it? Okay, so, and I don't know, probably too early. I should probably just not be over zealous here. I am going to leave it now because I really, really like what I have, and I think it already looks kind of
That is cool.
aspen-like. Clean up a couple of those edges, and we're good to go. That was easy. Look at all these easy things
That's good.
I'm doing today.
We need those.
We used the Cobalt and burnt sienna to create the kind of little bit of color on the tree, on the aspen or birch, whatever you want it to be. And so now we need to create a real dark for those markings on the tree, and we also need, you know, a black for the birds. So so we'll get that going. gonna get some of my good brushes out. There we go. I think that'll do. I am gonna go with my good old standard, which would be French Ultramarine blue. And now, when we want darks, remember, not too much water, because then it's gonna dry paler. So, lots of pigment, not so much water. And I'm just gonna, for good measure, put a little extra out here. There we go. And I might even just leave that brush and not rinse it off right now. And then, what is the color I'm gonna mix into my French Ultramarine blue to get it Burnt Sienna? Because it is basically like a complementary color. Burnt Sienna you could mix by mixing red and yellow together, and then put a little bit of blue in it to tone it down. You know, because red and yellow would make an orange, and then if you put a little bit of blue in it, it'll tone it down and you'd get a burnt sienna sooner or later. Yeah, but see, that's why I have it on my palette, because I could do that, but it takes longer. Because once you have to mix 3 colors together to get a certain tone, yeah, it can take you quite a while. So you can see here, those are the colors we get. And I could actually have used a little bit more blue. Luckily, I didn't rinse this brush out, because that's usually how it goes. French Ultramarine blue does not have as much staining power. Can you not see? Doesn't have as much staining power as the burnt sienna, so you always need more blue. So it's like you need 2/3 blue, 1/3 burnt sienna. I think it's about the ratio. So let's get there. That's more of what I am after. Okay, I can do in here with that blue. So I like to have it like this, and I'm fine with not having, you know, just one color. I like, you know me, I like a little variety. It goes a long way. Okay, so now we're going to do some dry brushing. So let's see if I can scoot that in. So I need to go and get some of the, make sure, I mean, for dry brushing, you need a lot of pigment and not very much water. So very often I like to kind of press the bottom of the hairs against Kleenex to kind of get that extra moisture out. And if I'm smart, sometimes I'm smart, I tested, yeah, that's perfect. Maybe I want a little bit like that. Can you see? And how do I hold my brush? On the side, and I'm kind of just letting it drag a little, very lightly across the bumps in the paper. That's how I'm going to get those markings. So let's start out here. Yeah, that works. And then just dab in a little bit more. And it's nice to be able to do it while I still have the masking on, because then I don't have to be careful. See how that already, doesn't that just, voila.
Looks like a birch.
Yep. And so here, and so you can see I'm giving it a little bit of a curved stroke to kind of indicate that roundness of the branches and the trunks. And they're always very dark and have these markings right where the, right where the little branches are coming out. I've noticed that's usually, they always have markings there. And then I'm just kind of dragging it across here. The hardest thing about this is to get it to look random. Don't do it like, you know, regular. That's the hardest thing. And a little bit up here. Be nice to have it here where his white belly is, so let's get some there. And the same here. Darken it a little bit. Up here, maybe a little bit here. All right. And I'm just getting a little bit, you know, now that the brush is dry, so I can get some of those kinds of marks. Can you see how that makes it right away look kind of rough. So now I'm gonna just load it up again. And I wanna have some areas, like here for instance. There'll also be some really dark areas. You know, kind of knots where there was a branch at some point and it fell off, broke off. And then underneath, it'll have a little bit of that kind, right? And then in here, I should get myself ready for it. If I want to, and you know, you can do as much or as little as you feel comfortable with, but I just want to show you, whoops, splatter, splatter, splatter. Because I did make a couple of areas where I could indicate, you know, that bark was peeling off. You see that there? So first of all, here inside here, you're kind of in on the raw skin, so to speak, of the tree. So I'm going to get that a little bit of a reddish tone now, just dabbing in a little bit here, there. Rinse out my brush right away. And pull that out to here. See, that's where he's also, you know, he's pecking at that because there's some little insects in there, some little goodie bites for the woodpecker. And just like that. Can you see how by putting that little bit of darkness there, and then I faded it out, it gives it like a roundish look. And now I have to let it dry. And then on this one here, I'll also have to do it a little bit dark and then pull it out, because that way it kind of gives it that curve, but I can't do it right now. I could do another fun little, so very, you know, another one of these here. It's almost like, looks a little bit like an eye. Looks almost like an eye, right? They have these dark markings. And then underneath, they have some of that. And then I'll drag it a little bit. So it's kind of fun to do some of those little textures. And I take a lot of pictures just of the trunks close up to give me ideas for what kind of markings they have. Get a little bit on there. And again, I'll have to just let it dry for now and then go back and work on it a little bit more. But it's kind of fun to do these things. Maybe I should do a little one up here, just here could be one. And then see if I can drag it out without sticking my hand in there. That's okay. I like to have a little bit of darkness here too, around his little head. Not dark, but there. So I'm gonna let you do some of those markings, and then we're gonna come back up here, and then we'll kind of fine tune things. Okie dokie. So I painted in the little black things. I did that little one. And a couple of things I wanted to just doctor up on the tree itself. And what I'm thinking is, so let's try and see here. Let's experiment together. if I do something along those lines here, rinse out my brush, go down there, and then a little bit in here, and drag that out. That way, hopefully, this thing sticks out a little bit. Let's do a little bit more here. So you gotta always lose the edge then on the other side, right? If you want things to kind of come forward. Rinse there. There. And we want to do a little bit of the same thing up here. Just put a little bit around and just kind of, can you see that? Then it just kind of sticks out a little bit. It's like, you know, now you can see that there's, you know, was a branch there.
Yeah.
All right, enough of that. And I'll probably go in and play around with it a little bit more, but got rid of that one. And then we needed to do this one, because that one's not finished yet. So I'm gonna do the same thing. Gonna put, and here I want it a little more bluish, like that.
Is that darker?
Yeah, it's darker and it's cooler.
Okay.
And then before it dries on me, get my damp tip in here and pull that out into here. And then that has to dry, and then I'm going to put some little tiny markings on it. Dab it a little bit maybe. Oh yeah, of course. And on this inside, I can already put some little markings on. So if I put a little bit, I should get a smaller brush that's not so wet. If we put a little tiny bit some markings on here. Not enough. There. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. And then a little bit of darkness maybe in here, a couple of these places. It's very little. I just want to kind of have it not so harsh. Can you see how it now, you can see that that's the inside of the tree?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then that's, so it's very, very little, but I think it's effective.
Do that on the other side once it dries?
Yes, exactly. And I want to get also some little bit of markings going kind of this way. Very little, but
Okay.
Can you see how then it kind of looks more real, I guess. Yeah, so that was fun. So now we need to get the dark on the birds. Let's see, what do they look like? So we have really masked out everything where we needed to keep the light. So I really don't have to be too afraid.
Except for where the red goes, huh?
Yeah, and that's here I didn't mark it out because this is, I think this is the son of this one. So he doesn't have as much red.
It's junior.
It's junior, exactly, in my world. And I got so there's that. And then I was thinking for this particular bird, just to get it a little bit of a different color than the darks there, I'm taking some indigo. And I have a little bit of red over here. So I can make that black this way with burnt sienna, but I need to throw a little red in because I have Indigo from Winsor Newton, and I just swatched it out so you can see the difference. Winsor Newton is the only Indigo I know of. Doesn't mean it's the only one that exists. That is, see that's how blue it is? This is the one I swatched out from that new paint company, Renaissance, that I just talked about.
One's more red.
Can you see it's, yeah, huge difference. This Indigo, and they call it Indigo hue, and it looks very much like Indigo from, say, Daniel Smith and M. Graham. They don't have an Indigo. They have Payne's Gray that looks very much like this. And I think the Payne's Gray in Winsor Newton looks very much like that.
Yeah.
So Winsor Newton is the only one that I know of that has an Indigo that is this blue. So this one, if I just mixed it alone with the burnt sienna from Winsor Newton also, and that one looks, when it's swatched out, looks like this. Can you see both of them have a lot of yellow in it? That's why if I mix those two together, they actually make a dark evergreen color.
Oh.
Whereas if you do that same, if you take the same colors from the other brands, for instance, this Renaissance brand, and again, Daniel Smith would be the same, and so would Da Vinci that I know of. Can you see if I mix these two colors together, I'm not going to go it's not going to go green. There's not enough yellow in between the two of them to turn it green. So that grows like gray or more black. It's a warmer black because this is warm color. And here is the comparison. So there's also a little bit of difference. It's not too much, but there's a little bit of difference between the two. I can see the one from Renaissance looks like it actually granulates a little bit more than this one. I didn't do the second coat on yet. But anyway, it's just to show you. That's why I have to throw red in if I want to use my my Winsor Newton Indigo.
So you
for
don't
those
have
black.
any French Ultramarine in there either?
In this one, I didn't.
Okay.
In this one, I didn't.
Okay.
I do in here. But I could also throw, you can also mix them all. The more, I mean, you can mix as many colors you want. If you're just going for black, go for it, folks. As far as, you know, because you don't have to worry about mud and stuff like that. You just want it to be dark. So I think I have plenty of different kinds of blacks. I would like to have a little bit of a variety because, you know, that's what I always like.
So you have the Indigo, the
Indigo,
Sienna,
burnt sienna, and a
red.
little bit of red, Quinacrodone red. The Quinacrodone red is because I have Winsor Newton Indigo and Winsor Newton burnt sienna.
Right.
If you have Daniel Smith, I don't think you need to. You could just go with the two.
I have Winsor Newton.
Yeah. So if any of you have Daniel Smith, you wouldn't need to use the red to take the green out. That's really what I did. I took the green out with the red because, you know, green and red, complementary colors. All right, so now I'm just going to put water on this birdie because I can. I'm going to leave his little top without water because I'm going to throw some red in for that. And then here,
What did you leave him without?
the top of it, yeah, the red part. The other one I masked out, but I didn't on this one. So just a little bit of water in. Can you kind of see where I put it?
Not on the beak.
I didn't put it on the beak, no, because the beak I'm going to paint separately.
Something different, okay.
I'm going to do separately. And then I'm just going to, can you see how I'm just dabbing in the color and it's, you know, floating out because that's what it does when I put water on. Because, you know, I don't want just one solid black. I'd like to have a little variety. And here. And now I'm going to take a different dip into this old black. Just to get a little bit of a variety. There's a little bit more blue in here. And we have to remember everything dries, you know, a little bit lighter. So we want to make sure we get it saturated. I don't really want to have to paint this bird twice, if we can help it. And it's definitely black up here, and it goes black to about there. And then it it goes like this. And just stepping into all my blacks to get a little variety. And you'll see it's such a good thing to have masked the bird out here with where all the white is, because then once we take the masking off when it's dry, I mean, it's almost painted. It's not nearly as intimidating. Make it really dark there around the eyes. And rinse that out. And before it dries, I'd like to get that little bit of red in. So I'm just using my Quinacrodone red because I think that's the perfect red for that. If you look at the color on the photograph there. And I'd like to get it a little bit in here. That's enough, I think. And then I'm going to take a little bit of a black and get that in there. And I did it like this because, you know, I didn't want the lines to be too hard where the red and the black meets. I don't want it to be a really hard line. I'd like it a little fuzzy because, you know, it's feathers. And there he is, all painted except for the little beak. Let's do the little beak. Maybe I want to take my dagger brush for that. So the beak is also dark, as you can see on our reference photo. So I'm gonna just do that on the dry beak because it's so tiny. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint in the bottom part, the bottom mandible is the technical term if I'm not mistaken. So I paint that in, and then I take a damp brush, could even put a little tiny bit of burnt sienna on, just, and then I'm gonna, before it hopefully dries on me, I'm gonna pull it out. Go back in and put a little bit more in, because it's a little bit darker at the bottom because again of the light. And there's the beak. And same on the other one. Let's see. And this one, we're seeing it actually, you know, kind of more from the back, and then it's turning its head. So we see a little bit of the belly, and we see the wing on this side, that's the wing, and then here's the tail here. And then that's that white spot it has on the back, because it's kind of sitting like this, you know, and it's turning its head. See a little bit of the belly. All right. And then,
There's other pictures.
yeah, there's the other picture. None of them are exactly, I just,
Right.
you know, took them just so we could see what the markings look like. So we'll do the same thing. So I'm just dipping around in all my little puddles. So I needed, can you see how I needed a little bit more of that red to get the right color there. And again, same thing. I love the way it moves. And here we can just paint around. It's nice to know that we have all the white spots covered. And we can always go in and either lift out or put a little bit darker on to give it a little bit more shape if we need to. That's also his tail going down like that. There. that away. I think I actually need a little bit. And now I'm putting, it went purple on me, can you see that? Then I just throw some yellow in because that's the opposite to purple. So now I've got a real black. And I'm just gonna go in and do a little bit like this, hoping that it's gonna start looking kind of like feathers. That's why I love the wet into wet, because can you see how you get kind of some free texture? Can you see that? This wing is dark.
What number brush is that even?
No idea. Doesn't really matter. 8. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing. Whoops, I got a little drip here. I'll do the same thing on his beak. I'll get a little bit of that dark at the bottom mandible up to, you know, where it meets the top one. And then might do the same thing. Put just a hint of the burnt sienna on. And drag it out. There, that's about right. And there it got a little darker than I wanted on the top. So before it dries, I'm just gonna go in and see if I can lift out a little bit, just like that. Can you see just a little bit like that? It just makes it look more real. That's pretty much it for now. Now we have to let them dry. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to grab my rubber cement eraser. I can't take the masking off the birds, but I can take the masking off the snow, off the branches. So I'll do that, and then we'll paint the snow when you come back, and then we'll paint the rest of the bird. I took the masking off here, and you can see mine also. For some reason, I've never had that problem before, but now the PBO also seems to leave sometimes a little hint of that gray blue. I don't know why that is. I don't know if they changed their formula or something, because I did notice that the color changed a little bit. They used to be grayer, not so blue. All these changings for the birds. All right, there we go. So let's start with something super easy. That's the snow. We're gonna make ourselves a little snow shadow color. That would usually, in my book, be a little bit of the cobalt blue. And then I'm gonna throw a little bit of, and I mean a little bit, of the Quinacrodone red in, and then it goes kind of more of a lavender color. And if you think it's a little too bright, you might just barely stick your tip in the burnt sienna, and that would gray it down a little bit. I think this is a good snow color. Oh shoot! If eyes are weird on animals or people, then I don't care if all the rest is perfect. It's not going to look right. It's going to look either like an alien or dead. So already here, I'm pretty happy with that eye. The only thing is this white ring is a little too much. So I'm just going to go in and narrow. That's the outside of the, there's a little bit of white around the eye. If we look at the photo, you can see. But you don't want to have it an unbroken ring. There. I think that's pretty good. A little bit like that. Can you see that? I think that's a good eye. And you can look at both pictures. Can you see it has a little bit of there and also there and a little bit. But don't do that unbroken circle, because that's, you know, that doesn't look, then it looks weird. All right, so that was pretty okay. And then let's go in and work a little bit with the beak. Once you get the eyes and the beak right, the rest is not nearly as important. So the beak, I want to go into, I have a little bit of that dark color. I just want to go in and just make it a little bit more dark right there where they separate. Lower and upper mandible. It's very, very little, but it makes a difference. And we can do the same on the other one while we're at it. There. And we can also do the other eye. Let's do this eye. So first, I want to complete this circle here and fix a couple of little things that were wrong with the masking. And then I'm gonna go in and do the same thing again. I'm gonna kind of paint in the pupil here of the bird. Birds have round eyes. And then I'm going to go in and fill in the pupil here, but I'm going to leave that little white glint that says this bird is alive. And I like to do them so that they have a little bit of a curved shape. And again, if you make the white part too big, it looks not good. There. And then I'm going to go from the outside and make this white part smaller. Actually, I want to do it from the inside here, I think. There. And if we end up not having white where we needed it, that's where we go in with either white paint or white gel pen. I think this is okay. There. There we have that. And then, you know, we need to fix our masking a little bit. But first, let's get a little bit of shape on the white areas of the bird, because, you know, they're not like bright, flat white everywhere. So let's create a little bit of a shadow color for the white part of the bird. So I take a little tiny bit of the burnt sienna and cobalt blue, maybe a little bit more burnt sienna. I don't mind if it's a little bit of a warmer color. If I look at the pictures, can you see? I mean, they're both, but can you see how it's not the same color everywhere? There's areas. So for instance, underneath here, I'm gonna put a little bit of shadow on here. That's also away from the light. So that would make sense. And go in and just do like that. A little bit down there. And there will also be a little bit, and I think I might even do that a little tiny bit warmer with a little bit more burnt sienna. Like right underneath here. And again, I go in with a clean brush and smudge it around a little bit. And then up there by the beak, I noticed it's like they have a little tiny bit of kind of like a burnt sienna color going. If you look at the picture, it's probably because, you know, these white feathers right around the beak here, they get stained a little bit by, you know, sap and stuff like that when they're picking at the trees. So already that's a little bit better.
I have woodpeckers that pick at my house.
Yeah. And we can give it a little tiny bit also, you know, maybe here. And I don't like this red got a little bit too hard, too dark. So I'm just going in to reactivate it and fix the shape a little bit. There. And I lift out a little tiny bit. That's much better. Great. I like that better. And then we have to start looking a little bit at the edges of the white, because, you know, it's feathers we have to remember. So we have to take the black and kind of break into the white. For instance, also here, just a little bit. So I take my little brush again and I do some little strokes, just like that. And the same here. Do some little strokes, you know, kind of indicating the feathers. And even out into here. Can you see just a little tiny, tiny bit? Can you see that? I don't know if you can. But, and then here, let's get a little bit more pigment on. So these are little tiny, tiny details, but I do think that they make the difference. So I'm gently kind of pushing into that red area with some little line work. Can you see that? So it looks more like feathers. It's not so like a blob. And the same here. So we have to think about how the feathers go. So here I'm going into the white with some little line work, a couple of places. Don't have to be everywhere. Just a little bit to kind of break that hard line. And the feathers are going kind of this way. So I make my strokes kind of mimic that. Can you see how that gets much, much better? It's these little tiny, 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 tiny things you'd think it's so little it doesn't matter, but it's exactly what matters. And now that I'm getting braver, I'm going to do a little bit more here. There. And it would be the same here. So here the feathers will go down a little bit like this. So I do, but make sure that you don't do it too regular. Do a little bit and then evaluate. And here you have to look at it from kind of afar to see if it was a good move or not so good a move. And so I'm gonna go in, and I don't even mind doing, gonna just have a very pale color, my shadow color here. Might even go in and do a little bit like this here in the white belly. Follow, can you see that? Just a little bit, just so you kind of get the impression that it's like feathers overlapping each other. So this is a lot of fun. It's really not hard. You just have to, the worst case scenario is that you do too much. Do a little bit and then look at it and see if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so here also the feathers are going this way, so I want to get a few little broken lines in this way. Here could be good. And a little bit here. And even these little dots here. See, they have these little dots, little white dots. Can you see exactly how it has those little? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you want to go in and just, and that's, you know, that's the thing with masking fluid. We have talked about that before. That's the drawback with masking fluid is, of course, you know, you end up with all these very precise hard lines. And so you, no matter what you're painting, you usually need to go in and kind of break them up a little bit. So I just do a little bit here and there, not too much. And the tail. I think it would be good if we can get a little bit of a darker right there. I mean, it's already very, very dark, but just so there's a little separation. And if everything on your bird got too dark, luckily when we have this much color on, it's not very hard to lift out a little bit. So say if I wanted to kind of lift out a little bit, it's not much, but enough so that it's a little bit lighter than that dark I just put in. Can you see that? And then it kind of gives a little bit of more shape to things. So I want to go in and break up a little bit more in here. And pretty soon, then up here, that also needs to be just smudged a little bit. And a little bit more here. And up there. 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 What do you think? Looks better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does look better when you do that. And then here. I think I need to get a little bit of darkness in here, kind of. And a little bit more here, maybe. Right under there. And then loose the edge. So I just want to get a little bit more shape on this birdie. There. I think that's pretty okay. And the same with the other one, this exact same thing. Let's get the red on. So it has, kind of like here is where the red is. Like that. And then we have to let that dry. And actually, you know, then we have that thing around the beak where it's a little bit of that burnt sienna color. So we can put that on. A little bit more water. But then we need to actually put some more, put a little bit on here too, a little bit more. It has a little bit of white around the beak, but it's mainly black. So I actually need to put some black on the top of the head, don't I? I do. And so I'm going to do that. And again, a little bit in there so we get that uneven, and that's also going to make this eye look a lot better. And into the red. And there is black around the red here. Like that. There we go. And there wouldn't be any white right there. And I don't mind if I have a little tiny bit of white showing through here, just because, you know, maybe it's a little shiny and stuff. And I'm going to put a little bit of that black in right there, just to break up this red spot. There. Because it's like little, this one is, he has his hair standing up. This one's nice and flat, but this one's like here, he's excited. So
He's a punk rocker.
He's a punk rocker, yeah. And it's exactly the same thing here with then going after those super harsh lines. Soften them, make them look feathery. And it's just like very, very lightly dragging your brush in and breaking up the lines there. Can you see that? And let's see. So there's a little bit of dark here. And there. break this up. And break these hard lines up. And think about the direction of the feathers. So here they'll go kind of like this way. And you can even put a few in here. You have a little bit of a highlight there. There. And here. And here. And again here, it goes like that. And it helps when you talk to yourself. And then again, his little tail. So there's, I want to have a little separation right here. So I want to put in a little bit of darkness right there. And again, I want to break up some of these. And then here, and then this is his little wing. You can see a little bit off on the side. So I want to give it a couple of little darker markings there. And then again, here, let's break this up. And you know, when you're painting with these little tiny detail brushes, they don't hold much water, so you have to reload often. And let's get this going a little bit better. Same here. And this is little neckband here. And then it goes out like that. Go. And then we need to put a little bit of that shadow color on this part. Maybe there. Actually, what we need to do is we need to get a little bit of color on the tree right there, to bring out. Need to fine tune his little belly here. So now I'm negatively painting around him. Can you see that? I just needed that color. And then I'm just going to drag it out here and have it disappear. But I needed that little bit of separation between that area and the tree, because it wasn't really defined the way it needed to be. So now we can see bird, tree. And then we can go back, and we also need to put a little bit of shadow color on here. So here he has some little unruly bit of white there. And a little bit more in here, just a little bit. And then I think we can possibly get some in there, just here. And then we need a little bit of the darkness. Need to get his tail fixed. And then there would be a little bit darker there. So we can kind of see, and then there's his tail. Need to fix that a little bit. And then dark. And then here. There. And pretty soon, you need to get his little toes. So you can only see a little bit, and that's going to help defining that fuzzy white hair, white feathers he has. Not hair, but feathers he has sticking out there. And I want to just tone it down just a little bit. But he's, you know, they have like really sharp claws, these little guys, so they can hang on for dear life to the tree bark, and then his claw goes in there. Here we can only see two on this one, but you can see, can you see that? Going like that. And this other little guy, he also needs some, make those a little bit lighter. There's one coming out here, and you can just kind of see it go in there. And then there's one going here, and it just is also like that, and then claw, and lift it out a little bit, and one more goes more like this. Oops. There. All right. I think that's pretty okay. I'll have to look at it from a little bit of a distance to see what else I think. Ah, I can see something, I think, right here. See here, what I didn't like, can you see how this line here, it's just not, it doesn't look good. At the end of his beak, we need to kind of break that up a little bit. Much better. Can you see, you know, I had like a hard line right there. It was like the beak was stuck on. Just a few little tweaks. Let's see. I think we're pretty good.
They look real to me.
So here I am finishing off the details on the painting, and you can see here I'm using that mixture that I had prepared earlier of cobalt blue toned down with a little bit of quinacrodone red and just a dab of the Birch Sienna. And I put the snow shadow color on right where the snow meets the branches that it's sitting on or lying on. And then with a damp wet brush, I loosen the edge inside the snow, and that just automatically gives the snow some volume and makes it look a lot better. And while my class is finishing up their paintings, I'm just putting the last little details on, fixing things. You'll see here I'm doing that little shadow on the snow again on that smaller branch. And in here behind the tail of that second downy woodpecker, And all these little last minute things that I'm doing, they are just to enhance it and make it just a little bit of a better, more complete painting. And here you can see I'm going in with a smaller brush, and I'm getting some of that very dark black that I created by mixing my different colors together, French ultramarine blue, the burnt sienna, and then I threw in a little bit of the indigo, and then toned it down with a bit of the red if it went too green. And here I'm just doing a few little strokes to on the belly of the birds to kind of indicate the feathers, so it's just not a flat white area. And I'm just going around on the two woodpeckers and putting in a little bit of some little stripes and shadows, and just making it look more like feathers so that it's not a hard, unbroken line. And you can go as much or as little into those little details as you feel like, and just to see what your painting needs. I tend to sometimes be a little fussy with these things, and I'm using that same color to just doctor up some of those markings on the tree where I feel it's needed. Whoops, here I'm outside the... No, lovely, I noticed that. It's really hard sometimes when I'm filming in a class setting. I don't always remember to look up at my camera. I'm using my iPhone to film my class demos with. And, you know, I get so into the painting I don't always remember to double check that it's still in focus on the camera. So I'm sorry about that. I know that my filming needs a little improvement, but I'm working on it, and I hope that it gets better and better as time goes on. And so you can see here I'm just putting on a little bit of the dark markings and you know, a little bit of shadows wherever I think it's is needed or where it would improve. And then I'm going over on that other side. I have another piece of that bark that's peeling off, and just giving that a little bit of markings. Darker right there where it's attached to the tree still, and then a little bit lighter as it, you know, moves away from the tree. And here just had a little cleanup I needed to do. So with a damp brush, I scrub very gently to remove that. And then again, I'm going in with a little bit of dark paint on my brush and flicking in some little lines to indicate the feathers, where the white and the black feathers meet. Dabbing out if it's too much, adding on. So, you know, there's a lot of back and forth you can do here. And the last thing I'm doing is I use my Uniball Signo white gel pen to go in and break up the black parts with a little bit of some white from the gel pen. So, you know, if you have some areas you need to fix, you can do that. And I'm just fixing a little bit up by the eye, just making the white glint in the eye a little bit more prominent. So there you have it. And here you can see what it looks like after I did all those little details. So I hope you have a lot of fun with this. And I will see you in another video. And remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you.